Never gonna be president now, never gonna be president now. Never gonna be president now, never gonna be president now. Okay. Was it recording? Yes, it is. Hello, my name is Christy. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here today on this. Well, today is a Tuesday. I don't know what day it is that you're going to watch this, but thank you for being here. My name is Christy. I already said that. This is going to be a July wrap up. So everything that I read, July. Everything that I read in the month of July. We have 8 books to talk about and 8 books that I enjoyed very, very much. So, well, except for one, but we'll get to it. And July was also exciting because I had earlier in this year had set the goal to read 30 books in 2020. But I found myself with a lot more time on my hands, as a lot of us did, and I reached that goal of 30 in July. So that's very exciting. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about all the other books that I read this month. So the first book I read in July was Cersei by Madeline Miller. I had read Song of Achilles earlier this year, which I talked about in my mid-year freak out book tag video, and I really, really loved it. So I was really big on this Greek mythology kick after reading Song of Achilles, and so I picked up Cersei, which is also by Madeline Miller. If you read The Odyssey in high school or college or what have you, there's a part where Odysseus goes to an island and there's a witch goddess person who turns all of his soldiers into pigs. This is her. So this story is about Cersei, who is a Greek goddess witch character, and she is banished to an island where she lives alone, and this whole story is about the visitors that come to her island and her wielding and developing her witchcraft powers and her abilities. The story is all about female empowerment and coming into your own and taking charge for yourself and figuring out your own powers and strengths. The next book I read in July was All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. It is a memoir by and about George M. Johnson, primarily for young adults, but I think anyone could read this book and learn something and enjoy it. And it goes through their experience growing up as a Black person and as a queer person and as a non-binary person. It also touches on some darker subject matter like violence and sexual abuse, and just some things that you wouldn't think that would be in a memoir for children or young adults. But I will say there is a part in the introduction where George M. Johnson talks about the stuff that he's going to get into and some of the darker times in his life that he talks about in his book, and how this book is written for young adults and for teenagers, and how some people might gawk at why are you including these things in a book for younger people? But he also says that these bad things are things that happened to him when he was a kid, when he was a teenager, and so it felt weird to not include it in his memoir when those are things that happened to him when he was younger, and so many other kids might be experiencing the same things. So I really respected that. I really, really loved it. I think that I'm just a nosy person, and so I like memoirs and I like hearing what other people have to say about their lives and what happened in their lives. But it was fantastic. The next book that I read in July was A Burning by Megha Majumdar. This is a political fiction about a girl who is accused of facilitating a train bombing terrorist attack in India. And I think what I'm realizing now, and what I wish I would have realized earlier, is that I don't jive with political fiction. This book talked a lot about class differences, which I enjoyed, but then when it got to the parts about the actual government and the corruption and things like that, I didn't enjoy it. I think it just is making me sad given the current situation of everything, and so I didn't really enjoy it as much as I could have. I also feel like I was a little misled by the synopsis, but I think that may have been my own doing and my own projection. My understanding was that there are 3 main characters, and that they had independent storylines, but they all kind of weave together and converge at a point, and that's not really what happened. There were 3 main characters, and they did have fairly independent plots going on, but they didn't really come together at the end, or really come together at all that much. So I was a little disappointed on that, because I really love when they're separate storylines and separate character narratives, and they all like come together to tie everything up. But we didn't get that with this book. In terms of plot and government corruption, this plot was believable and realistic, and I mean that in like the saddest way. The things that happened in this book I could see happening in real life, and I don't like that. And I picked up this book expecting like a revolutionary story just based on like the title, a burning, and like the fire imagery on the cover and like just the orange reds. I just thought it was going to be a lot more fiery and a lot more like rebellion-esque, and that is not what we got, and I am sad about it. I think just given this political climate, I wanted something a little bit more energizing and a little bit more revolution focused, and this did not give that to me. The next book that I read in July was Your House Will Pay by Steph Cha. This book is a fictionalized novelization of a real event that happened in 1991, which is the murder of Latasha Harlins in Los Angeles. And if you don't know about this, essentially Latasha was a 15-year-old black girl who went into like a corner store market to get some juice, and she was shot by a Korean woman who was a store owner who was working at the counter. And this event really highlights the fact that racism isn't necessarily like a white and black thing. Racism can occur in all different races and people of color. And so this book is based on that event. And a lot of it is fictionalized, but a lot of it is also true to form. And so this is about Ava, who is a 15-year-old girl who gets shot in a corner store by a Korean woman. And it covers her brother's perspective of the event after it has happened and how his family has been impacted by this. And then it also covers Grace, who is the daughter of the store owner that shot Ava. And Grace is seeing this all play out and the implications of it 20 years after the fact. And she's also having to face, you know, her role in this, even though she wasn't alive when it happened, and what she needs to do moving forward. And it was interesting to see Grace's development throughout this, because she starts from a place where she doesn't think social justice is a thing worth working towards, to finding out that her mom did this really overtly violent and racist act, and also coming into the defense of her mom a little bit, to moving to a place where she kind of understands things a bit more, and she's more open and understands how racism, especially in between groups of color, can be very harming. The next book that I read was The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book is about Xiomara, who is a teenager living in New York City. She is a very smart girl and a very talented poet, and this is the traditional like coming of age arc. She's really trying to find her own place in the world. It follows her. There is some romance. There is mother-daughter strife. Her mother is very religious and wants her family to be religious as well. Xiomara's not really feeling that so much. She kind of is really trying to find her own place in the world and discover what she holds dear and what really matters to her. Xiomara is really thinking a lot more independently and critically about what she thinks the world is and what her place in the world is and all things like that. And it's very beautiful. I love Elizabeth Acevedo so much. I think I said this in a previous video, but if you could do any of her books on audiobook, do that, because she narrates it, and it's honestly the best audiobook experience I've ever had in terms of narrators and feeling and emotion and tone. So highly recommend. Check it out. Chef's kiss, you know. The next book I read in July was Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. I love this book. I highly recommend. It was so fun and entertaining. But it is about Amira, who is a 25-year-old black girl who gets a job nannying for a rich white family. And this isn't a spoiler, but the story kicks off when Amira is with the kid that she is nannying at the grocery store, and she's accused by another white woman of kidnapping the kid that she is nannying. Security gets called. It's a whole event. And then the story takes off from there. And that's all I'm going to say, I think. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say. And there is like a weird obsession that the mom in the family has with Amira. Anyway, so yes, that is all I'm going to say. Okay. The next book I read in July was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and I had so much fun with this. It was cute and sweet and steamy at some points, okay? So this is about Chloe, who is a chronically ill millennial living in England. She has like an existential crisis in which she decides that she really needs to get a life, and she starts doing that by moving out of her family home. So she moves into an apartment and she meets Red, who is a superintendent, and they start off kind of on a rocky footing. They don't really like each other all that much, but they start to hang out, and she enlists him to help her knock some of these things off of her bucket list, so to speak. And so Red helps Chloe satisfy some of the things on her list, and romance ensues. The next book and the last book I read this month was To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. I am not going to say too much about this because I'm like 5 years late to this train, but it was very cute, very sweet, very light, just exactly what I wanted to read for the summer. To All the Boys I Loved Before is about Lara Jean. She is a half Korean teenager living in Virginia, which, like, if you're reading a young adult book about a Korean girl, they're living in California or Virginia or Maryland. Like, that's it. Anyway, this story is about Lara Jean, and she writes letters to the various boys in her life that she has loved, and she puts them away in a box and puts them in her closet. And one day, all these letters get sent out to these various boys, and then chaos commences. I really love this, aside from the like teenage crush, romance, embarrassment, oh my god, everyone's staring at me kind of feelings. This book touched a lot on familial relationships, which I wasn't really expecting too much going into it. She talks a lot about her relationships with her sisters, her older sister who just went to college, and her younger sister who she now has to take care of because her older sister is gone and her dad is a single dad. And I just thought it was really sweet. I mean, even aside from the teenage romance part of it, which is fun, you're seeing Lara Jean have to take on this new role of like the mother of the house since her sister is gone and her mom is dead, and she's trying to navigate independence while also having to take care of the people in her life and manage the household and the like learning pains and growing pains that she's getting from that, while also like having her love exposed to people. It's a lot of pressure, and I really loved it. I love Lara Jean. I think I'm gonna go watch one of those movies today because I'm just like in a mood. I have the next 2 books in the series, and I think I'm gonna hold off on them for a little bit because I have a couple of books that are like sad and dark that I want to read, and so I think breaking it up and putting Lara Jean in between those sad and dark books will help my mood and just like be really great uppers. So I'm really excited for them, but I'm just gonna wait until I like really need them. And that is it. We've come to the end of the video. We've come to the end of the July roundup. Thank you so much for sticking around. I hope I did these books great justice in my explanations. I'm already a little bit nervous about what this video for August is going to look like because school starts in August. I know that I'm not gonna have a lot of time to read for fun, and I'm hoping I can get some good books in for next time, but we will see. I have anxiety about it, but yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking it out. I will see you next time. Bye!